From Bowl Gold Studios in the Liberty Theater building in beautiful downtown Liberty, welcome to another episode of Eye On Sullivan. I am Mike McGuire. I'm the host of your show. I'm joined today, as I am each week, by the chairman, Rob Doherty. Rob, welcome back.
Hey, welcome back, Mike. How was Florida?
Oh, Florida was wet and cold just the way you want it when you go down there. We had temperatures that streaked into the 40s,
Wow.
which was really great.
Wow,
and we had plenty of rain. It was a good trip to the tropical rainforest.
Well, when we were driving down, we were in the 60s in some states.
We were in the 60s in some states, but Florida was a rebellious
Not
state,
so
and it
much.
stayed in the 40s and 50s. But we're back today, and we got an exciting guest today with us.
That's what I understand.
We drove through North Carolina,
We did.
and North Carolina had a basketball coach for a long time. His name was Dean Smith,
That's correct.
and the guy that had to follow Dean Smith had a tall order.
He did have a tour.
And we've had a sheriff here now for going on 20 years, and fresh blood and new ideas is always a good idea. And I'm real pleased to welcome to Eye On Sullivan, Tim Dymond.
Thank you both for having me. Mike, we've known each other for years. As a judge, you signed plenty of search warrants for me at 2 o'clock in the morning, which I can't say enough about having a judge that'll actually answer the phone and get out and sign these warrants and wire affidavits and everything else. And Rob, obviously you ran the county for a period. You got us into a financially very healthy place.
We did.
And I look forward to hearing both of your ideas and having a good conversation.
Well, that's great. Well, Tim, I remember you even came to the ball field one time. We signed a warrant in between my announcing a baseball game.
Yes, we did.
So that was interesting. I remember when
That's
Tim
funny.
was an athlete at Tri-Valley, and he was not bashful about his elbows. He really didn't need a weapon. He had elbows. And it wasn't bashful about using them. But we're so happy that you're here. And folks, before we get started with Tim, I want to remind you that we've been getting more and more feedback on our email.
I've
and if you
read
want to
them.
drop us a note and printing them. Rob's
Yeah,
been
yeah,
printing them and
yeah.
sending them out. If you
Crazy.
want to drop us a line and let us know what you think of it, it's eyeonsullivan@gmail.com. And that's not ion like the electron. It's EYE on Sullivan@gmail.com. So with that, Tim, I know the folks out in Grahamsville, out in Tri-Valley, know you for your whole life, and the folks in the state police certainly know the work that you've done. You're recently retired. Why don't you take a couple minutes and bring us from your leaving Tri-Valley and going on to college until you reached the decision to retire and then run for sheriff?
Sure. Born and raised here in Sullivan County, proud resident, raised by Mary and Cal Dymond over in, I lived in Woodburn.
Cal Dymond. That's a pretty cool name. I got to say.
Great name. I now have a brother named Cal Dymond, a nephew named Cal Dymond.
Oh, really?
And I have another nephew named Callum. So there's a lot of us.
Yeah.
Anyhow, graduated Tri-Valley, went to Sacred Heart University, graduated
Up there in Bridgeport. It's not in Bridgeport. They say it's, what town do they say it's in?
Fairfield.
They
is
say it's
much
in
fancier.
Fairfield.
Yes.
About the size of this desk is in Fairfield, by
It's
the
in
way.
Bridgeport.
Yes.
I've been there. I've coached basketball games there. It's in Bridgeport.
My friend John Clark is the wrestling coach
Yep.
there, and Douglas went on a trip there, so I know it's in Bridgeport.
And Dave Bike was a legendary basketball coach there for many years, won a couple Division II national titles there. Sacred Heart's no joke.
Yeah.
Yes, Sacred Heart. A lot of great memories there. 4 out of 5 siblings went to Sacred Heart.
Oh, really?
Yes, my oldest now goes to Sacred Heart.
So your parents are poor.
So we paid for at least 2 of the buildings, but great experience. I graduated Sacred Heart, and before graduation, actually, I took a bunch of police exams, right? State police, NYPD, some local exams. And like most people in the policing profession, NYPD called first. Went to the NYPD.
They're like the 5th largest standing army. I mean, it's
Tremendous.
Yeah.
My mom was like, please don't go there. Please don't go
Please,
there.
yeah.
Of course, I went there. Great experience. Met some of the best cops in the world. Met some really crappy cops and everything in between.
I understand that you were stationed in me and Mike's hometown there in the Bronx.
In the 5-2.
5-2 precinct,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
off under Missoula there,
Yeah.
Webster Avenue.
I
I
know
ran
the
the
area
Shula
well.
Parkway every morning as a track athlete at Manhattan College.
It's an interesting neighborhood.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
My first day, I got a foot post assigned 194 Decatur and Marion up to
Yeah.
198.
I know Decatur well.
And pretty rough spot,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the guy at the desk, old cop, big handlebar mustache. I said, hey, how do I get to Decatur, 194 Decatur? So he takes out a map, he circles it. He goes, "Don't get captured." I remember being like, I'm 22 years old. I was like, "Don't get captured."
Yeah.
Where are you sending me?
Yeah, no,
He was very right.
It's a narrow street, right? So it's
street.
one block up from Webster Avenue, and off of Fordham Road, and they used to have the Fordham bookstore was on the corner there, and Clark's used to be up the block by where the bank is, and one night we had a situation with people in the neighborhood, and they took a shotgun out and put it in my brother's face.
I believe it.
Yeah, and I was like, wow.
I
Wow.
believe it. So, and I had a good time in the 5-2, learned a lot. You certainly see things that you don't see if you're not in New York City.
Yeah.
And then I went to Bronx Task Force for a period. I worked for a gentleman named Pedro Candia. He's now in heaven. Pedro was instrumental in training and teaching me how to treat people. Him and Tim Miller, who's now a DEA agent in Connecticut, they helped mold me. But myself, like most young New York City cops, you're almost told immediately when you get there that you should look for jobs elsewhere, whether it's Suffolk, Nassau, State Police.
Nassau pays like crazy.
I'm talking day 1 or 2. The PBA came into Brooklyn College. There's 1,600 of us, right? All new recruits. We don't know anything about anything. And I remember them saying, "You guys need to find another job." And I remember thinking, I worked hard to get this job. Like, what's wrong with this job? And then you see that there was some pay disparity. This is just before the NYPD went to the $24,000 cops.
Yeah.
I was hired at like $34,000. Somewhere in there.
Nothing.
Very, very, very low pay. But I remember them saying that. So everybody gets in this rat race, and you start taking, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and I wind up getting an offer from the city of Middletown Police and the town of Fallsburg Police at the same time, and I go back and forth. And what do I want to do? Right, City of Middletown pays a little bit better, maybe a little more action, but town of Fallsburg Police was home, and I knew inevitably I wasn't staying at either one. I wanted to be a state trooper from day one.
Okay.
I just didn't score well enough on that entrance exam to get hired right away.
Yeah.
It is, and I tried to outthink the personality section.
Yeah, it's tough. That's tough.
So, so I wind up going to Fallsburg, and day 1 I was like, I think I made a mistake, right? And I'm driving around, the streets are kind of empty.
That's not a comment on Fallsburg.
No.
It's a comment on what your experience.
Going from action-packed place,
Yes.
and to kind of a sleepy town, except for 10 weeks out of the year, you're like, wait, what am I doing here?
I thought I made a mistake, and then I started meeting some of the people in the agency, and I started to see that there were some fantastic police officers in that agency, and I started to learn, right? Because in the NYPD, you get exposed to a ton of stuff, right? You're going to see murders, you're going to see accidents, shootings, like all the chaos, right? You guys know the neighborhood.
I grew up in the Bronx. I mean,
running and gunning
sort
on
of
the
old
weekends,
times.
right? I went to Fallsburg and actually learned how to process some of these things, how to draw my own complaints, how to actually do a report that was case ready for court. So it was a great experience. I am still tight with a lot of those guys this day. Obviously, you guys know me and Travis Hartman are very close friends.
Good guy.
And so from there, though, I had to make a big decision. Right? State Police made a job offer. At the time, I put in for a detective position, and I remember Simi Williams was the police chief.
Up until a year ago, he was.
So
police chief.
Simi called me in his office. He said, "Tim, I can't give you the detective position." And I was young. I was a young cop at the time, but I felt ready, and I was eager.
Sure.
And he goes, "You got your whole life ahead of you." He's like, "Go to the state police, do your thing." And I remember initially being frustrated with that because I'm like, man, I think I can do the job.
I can do this.
And he winds up promoting Brendan Pavese. He was a good friend of mine, now Chief Brendan.
now
Pavese.
Chief.
Now Chief.
I wound up leaving for the state police, and I couldn't tell you that it couldn't have worked out better for both of us. Right? Brendan and I are still very close friends.
Yep.
And everybody has a path, right? And I believe that. And it's not controlled by us, right? It's controlled by something else. And I wanted to go into the state police, trooper. I graduated top of my academy class, highest academic score in the class. Went to Liberty, Wurtsboro, Trooper of the Year in 2012. Went to the back room in Middletown. Worked every case you can think of: robbery confessions, murder confessions, running and gunning. Then when I went to narcotics, I really found my home. Right. So gang narcotics to me, like these are groups that are controlling most of the violence in our communities.
Correct.
Right. To me, it was like, I want that. Right. I became a police officer to go after the worst people out there. Right. I never liked writing tickets. I didn't love stopping a carpenter on his way to work that's busting his butt to pay for his family, to write him a ticket to have him step backwards, right? I like going after people that other people cross the street to avoid.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so narcotics gave me that avenue.
Yeah.
So I went to undercover operations school, and in my mind, and we always laugh about this, in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to run long-term cases, right? I'm going to run wiretaps. It's going to be great. It's going to be like the movies.
Oh,
Day
it's
one.
not.
Day one. My boss at the time was Jim Serafini, who's I'm sure you remember him, right? Hard charger, great guy, Marine Corps. Jim says, "All right, Tim, get suit up. We're gonna buy some drugs in Newburgh today." And I'm thinking someone else is gonna buy drugs. Right? He's like, "No, you're buying."
No,
drugs."
you're buying.
So I was like, "Jim, I'm a case agent, man. I'm not like
That's
I'm
right.
Yeah.
I'm not here for that."
Yeah.
And he's like, "You're buying drugs today."
Yeah.
So
in downtown Newburgh.
in that we went down to Broadway. We went to our jump location, right?
Yeah.
Did our pre-recorded buy money, photo everything. I get in the undercover truck, and we have a target location, right? We have people that are eyes out there. Okay, they're out selling, corner of whatever.
And
The
you have to get
boys-
a hand-to-hand in this situation.
Have to get a
right?
hand
The
in
boys in
hand.
South Street.
Yeah.
The boys, South Street. I mean, both sides of Broadway. We were
Right.
doing a ton of work.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that hard to find. You know?
There's a lot of drugs, but we were trying to find street crews. So I go out.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I make my first drug buy, and the guy makes hand to hand. It was like 3 bags of heroin, nothing heavy. We go back to the jump, the meeting location. I'm like, that was cool. Like, this was like I just had a really bad person think that I was another
Bad person.
Bad person. Yeah.
From there, I started doing. I said, Jim goes, "You want to do another one? Yeah, let's do another one." I started buying drugs all over Orange County, Sullivan County, Ulster County, all the way out to New Jersey. And it became something that it was my way of like, I can really get into these people. We started putting up phones, wiretap affidavits,
crazy. It gets
state and federal
crazy,
court.
yeah.
You start to hear how bad guys operate every single day.
They have
And
their
when
own
I-
language.
Their own language, as you know. I mean, you've heard it.
Yep.
And I actually testified in federal court and state court as an expert witness on coded language, right? So I would sit in a courtroom, not my drug case.
Yeah.
They would play drug calls from a crew in Westchester County and say, Investigator Dymond, can you tell us what you just heard, right? And the slang that they use, I got so used to and accustomed to that I would testify to what I heard. And they would use the expert testimony for their case. And great experience.
It's kind of crazy, right?
It's bizarre, but it is like
It's addictive, also.
it runs you down. And I found myself, I was so into my work, I was letting home slip, right? And I was one of those people and I come from a long line of workaholics, right?
Yeah.
And
You're
I was
talking
one of
to
those.
two workaholics. Yeah.
I feel like I'm in good company in this
You're in
room.
good company today.
So I felt like my priorities are slipping a little bit, and so I wind up I get promoted, become a senior investigator in the gang unit, and just doing my thing, teaching young undercover. Started to teach at the undercover operations school for the state police up in Albany and out in Oriskany.
And now, how far are you into your state police career at this point?
So at that point, total years in the state police, I think I made senior around 10 years.
10 years, okay. So now you have 14 years experience.
Yes.
as a police.
Yep.
Okay.
Roughly
Yeah.
between the multiple agencies.
Yeah.
So I start to supervise these cases, and I did find satisfaction in that. Right, it was awesome to work with a new undercover that is going to go to Rochester and rock and roll, right, and then hear back from them 2 years later, like, hey, in that course you said this, and that got me to here,
Yeah.
right, and that was very satisfying. As anybody that teaches,
Yeah. I mean,
know,
And you're
it's-
teaching from your own experience, so you know what it's like to be out on the street. Too many teachers never been in that position.
100%. And
the other thing, they're still alive, which means that you did a good job.
yes,
Yeah.
and there's everyone that's done that work. There are days that are bad days, and there's days where
yeah.
I can remember one of the last buys I did. I was in East Orange, New Jersey. We had ordered up 1,000 bags of heroin down there, 1,000 bags up here, and we're taking both crews off. And I remember sitting in my car, and I could paint you the picture to this day of the fear I felt because the dealer was a little off. He was a little late, and it was dark, and we were just on a street I didn't know. And I remember thinking to myself, "This is it. Like this is."
But they ain't get me.
And then you start to think, what's my family gonna think? Is this worth it? What are my kids? And I wind up.
Crazy, yeah.
the dealer shows up, gets taken off. I think actually Jake was there. I saw some large man just charging across the parking lot, laying somebody out. So I made it out, and so there's satisfaction in the teaching and the leadership, just like there's in coaching.
Sure.
There really is, but it almost like it wasn't keeping my brain busy enough.
Yeah.
So 2020 comes.
Oh,
right?
everything gets routine after a while.
Yes.
Everything, as crazy as that sounds, everything gets routine after a while.
Yep.
And you want more.
And everything, there has to be some turnover, right? And everything runs its course.
Yeah.
So 2020 comes, right? COVID, George Floyd, chaos. Police officers went from being kind of the pride of communities to like, I had people calling me saying, I don't tell anybody I'm a cop. I don't wear any police insignia. I don't.
Wow.
And that,
But
like,
you cops know cops. All my friends that are cops always nod at each other all the time. I'm like, I gotta go.
yes, there are.
Cops know cops.
Cops are guys, they just don't want other people to know cops.
Yes. And that became, that was a tough time for our profession, as you guys, I'm sure, both know. So there was a little turmoil in our union. They're talking about they need to change leadership. Police unions in general just banging their fists like that. Everybody's wrong. We're right. And that's
you
just
can't pass enough.
and I took more of a position of like, well, let's hear them out. Like, how can we get better? What can we do to get better? So then, of course, my fellow investigators like, Tim, you should run for president. I'm like, I have no interest in that. And then it like became like the shove in the back. Like, someone's got to do it. So I did. Ran for president of NYSPIA, represented thousands of investigators across the state of New York, counterterrorism, serial killer, by the way, the one that cracked the Gilgo Beach serial killer case. With a lot of people, very proud.
That was a big one,
it just a great experience. I got to see my fellow officers through some really hard times. Right. I mean, everybody wonders, what do these police unions do? I'll tell you what I did as a police union leader. It was take care of my peers. Right. If their wife had cancer, if their kid got in a bad accident, if they were battling alcoholism, right? Anything we could do, that's what we went to do. And I tell our board, I said, we're a members first union, right? Every other union may say that. We're going to do it, right? Everything that someone needs that we can help with, I don't care if their dog got hit and we can get a better vet, that's what we're going to do. So I finished my career at NYSPIA. It allowed me to see state politics, see some craziness.
You thought Newburgh was ugly.
I used to say sometimes I'd rather deal with a crack dealer than some of the politicians.
It gets ugly fast.
Albany is obviously vicious. Some tough battlegrounds up there.
Sullivan County's pretty vicious too, Tim.
It's I'm learning. So yes.
Well, I know what you did with the union because it hit home for me when my nephew lost part of his hand on a raid here in Sullivan County. You were one of the first people that went down to Westchester Medical Center and presented him with just something to make him feel better and to help the family through. And he was a sheriff's detective, but you recognize, your union recognized that you're all brothers.
And that's how I'm wired. I'll never change. A cop's a cop to me. Whether you're a deputy, you're a New York City cop, you're a constable, you're a trooper. People think that, this agency's elite, this one's better. 10% are rock stars, 10% are real problem, and 80% just want to do their job and go home. Right. And that's pretty consistent from all the federal agencies I've worked with through the state and locals. And when your nephew got hurt, I'm thinking to myself, that could have been any one of us. Sure. Right? He's up early in the morning, taking out a drug dealer that's poisoning our streets, and now his whole life is in turmoil. And we did what we thought was right.
Right. Well, I know that the family appreciated that, and I knew that I'd run into you at some point, and thank you personally. And then you mentioned, what you do as a union, and it's true. You do it across the board, not just for members of the investigators union, but when a police family is in trouble, you were there. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So you've had a lot of experience, quite a diverse experience. I mean, people think, well, he was a trooper and he retired as a trooper, and most people don't realize when you peel back the layers in the New York State Police or in the NYPD or even in local law enforcement, there's lots of different specialties and lots of different task forces that give you lots of different experiences, and all of it comes together to the primary mission is to keep our streets safe, keep our schools safe.
100%.
So you retired from the state police just about a month ago, give or take.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has been long. Feels like it's been long. It hasn't been long.
You retired and you spent a lot of time. You say you're a workaholic, but you took a couple of days after you retired.
Yeah,
before you
I mean,
announced
you
the
know.
sheriff. So I don't know what you did for those 2 days.
I don't know what you did for those
I don't know if you can
48
make a
hours.
decision or not. But so you retire and you make a decision that you want to run for sheriff. And I'm going to just put this right out there up front. You didn't make that decision on a personal vendetta against the sheriff that's been here for 20 years.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So take us through that process. I'm sure you discussed it with your family, and I'm sure just retiring from the state police, you're still fairly young. You could have stayed on there. What went into your decision-making process?
So I'm going to tell you a quick story
Sure.
that just happened recently, and I'm going to use that as a preface to where we're going. My daughter, I have 4 kids. My 16-year-old is with her friend. They finish basketball practice at Tri-Valley. They go to Dunkin' Donuts. They love to get these refresher drinks, the $6
They're like 9,000 calories.
fruit punch,
Yeah,
right? So they go there and they get their drinks and they're going out to the car, and a gentleman starts to approach them. So now they get a little quicker to the car. Then they jump in the car and lock the doors.
And where is this now?
This is in Liberty Dunkin' that we've all been to.
Yeah,
Sure.
1,000 times.
And my daughter said, "Dad, we had to lock the doors. Like, this guy wouldn't leave us alone." And they don't know if he's looking to take a purse, if he's looking for $5, if he's going to hurt one of them.
Yeah.
So they get home, and I'm hearing the story, and I tell you that story because that's not the Sullivan County that I grew up in.
Correct.
And I grew up here. Like, I've lived these same. I've been to the local places. When I was 16, we would go get a soda or whatever after practice. And to hear my daughter say that, or when they go to Marshall's in the town of Thompson, and you can't get in the building without a heroin user approaching you and begging and getting in your face,
Sure.
that's uncomfortable for anyone.
Go get a bagel on Broadway. It's insanity.
So, given all those examples, this is what I do, right? Law enforcement is what I do. It's my specialty. And I feel like I can do a better job in that office. And I feel like I can make our community safer for our kids, our grandkids, our cousins. And that agency, there are good bones, right? It can thrive. It really can. It can become a premier agency in New York. But it just needs some new leadership. Recruitment and retention is a big issue right now in all of law enforcement. I'm pretty good at relating to younger people, right? I coach football. I coach basketball.
And how old are you now?
I'm 42.
42.
I'll be 43 this year.
Okay.
I have the ability to connect with people of all ages, but I think recruitment on the early end for these young COs and these young deputies, these young troopers, they need someone that they can connect with and relate with. And I think that's a strength I have, particularly from my coaching and working with these kids all the time. I mean, I can't tell you how many kids, before the season's over, I'll say, "Hey, what are you doing next year?" Right, to the seniors. "Oh, I don't know, I'm going to work construction. Let's have a plan. What's next, right? Look to the future." A lot of these kids, sports is a great transition into law enforcement, corrections.
Yeah.
Right, gives them a steady job.
I mean, you know how to
benefits.
show up on time. You know how to follow some rules, and you're willing to work hard. I mean, sports is ideal for law enforcement.
Yes, and I've told many people I'm fairly certain I learned more in college football than I did in college.
Sure.
Right, and about commitment and about 5 a.m. workouts in the off season when everybody else is just coming home from the bar. We're heading to the pit center to work out.
Right.
Right, and teamwork and sacrifice and all of these things that you don't get lessons like that anymore. I think a lot of kids don't. Now, high schoolers, same deal, right? I see these girls, they're all through their Christmas break, right? Most kids are sleeping until 10, hanging out, going to movies. These girls, 8 a.m., were there every single day. They took Sunday off, then they're back at it, and that, to me, builds a resilience that's very effective in law enforcement.
I agree.
So yeah, I decided I wanted to make a run. I did speak to Mike last February.
And you're saying Mike Schiff.
Mike
right?
Schiff, I'm sorry,
Sure.
yes.
Yep.
We've always got along. There was a friendship there. I said, I think it's time. And he wasn't quite in agreement with that, and here we are.
Why would he be?
And there's nothing wrong with a race. There's nothing wrong, like everything,
So now, as people know, I'm a Republican. I ran on a Republican ticket before.
I'm not.
And he is not. He's a conservative. And I remember, just recently when Camille O'Brien and Lou Ingrassi were running, everyone's like, we don't want a primary, we don't want a primary. I was like, I think primaries are good, right? I think that you get to vet the other guy, or the other person. You get to talk about ideas. They had their debate in this room, I believe.
They did.
And I thought it went very well. And you got out a lot of ideas and different visions and different aspects of how, they see the job. And I always think it's good for people. I mean,
It draws interest to the party.
Correct.
Right, because there's something going on.
Yeah.
Interest to the party. Competitiveness in general makes things better, right? You don't want a basketball team where you only got 5 kids.
Iron sharpens
right?
iron.
Or where you beat every team by 50.
Yeah, you want competitiveness. It sharpens the sword a little bit, right? It makes you a little bit better. And you mentioned debates. To me, debates, I always want to watch because I want to see how they react to questions. I want to see how they interact with the moderator. I want to see how they interact with each other.
Sure.
I've had a few people say, why do you want to debate? I said, you debate and you converse in front of the voters so they can make a very educated opinion on how they perceive
so now if 2 people will run for an office, any office, not just the sheriff's office, and they sit down here, like you and I are right now, right? I mean, we're this close to each other. You have a water, I have a water, and we just, you have a moderator just to keep the conversation going, right? Or stop certain parts of the conversation because it's going nowhere. Right? And you just talk things out, right? This is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about this. I know one thing that you said was body cameras. Currently the Sheriff's Department does not have body cameras. The state police does have body cameras. I believe some local law enforcement agencies do have it on the town level. And you could sit there and debate that issue, right? I mean, you can have an honest, open conversation about why it's good or why I don't want to do it. And that's how you find out where everyone stands on stuff. It's very difficult in a conversational, meeting with someone to not vet what they're getting at, how they feel about the office. At the end of the day, you're an elected official and you run your office. I mean, you're a co-employer with the county, which is a big deal.
Yep.
It's, your budget. I believe they have the largest budget, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Public Works,
Public Works
but
is
it's
up
close.
there, yeah.
Well, Public Works gets a $10 million pop on just for blacktop.
Yeah. But I'm talking personnel.
Personnel-wise,
you're the biggest. I mean, and there's a lot that goes into it, and it's good to converse with people. And I think that even if, let's say, Mike Schiff was to win the race, he could be like, Tim brought up some good points. I want to call him up and have another conversation with him and converse on this stuff. And I think that's good for everyone involved.
You make things better. And I could tell you right now that I've spoke to plenty of deputies that work there. I know a lot of them now. One of the questions that was brought to me was, what's your feeling on deputies having a neatly trimmed beard? I said, I think beards are a great idea. Right, I've had a beard. My kids that don't know me without a beard.
By the way, it's cold here. By the way,
and it's cold as long as it's neat and trimmed, and they said, "Oh, that's great." And they brought up, how about lights mounted to the weapons, which law enforcement, most agencies went to that many years ago.
Right.
I said, yeah, that should be that way. Well, it sounds like beards are coming soon, and weapon-mounted lights are also coming. If that makes things better, just having these conversations, then let's make it better. Right?
Look, the NFL made changes because of what the XFL did. So it's okay. So what I want to do is I want to give Tim an opportunity. Again, this is not Tim against Sheriff Schiff. This is, where is our sheriff's office now? How is it able to respond to the emergencies of today, which we know are numerous from lots of different angles it comes at us? In terms of what you know of our agency, and you know a lot about it, you've worked closely with them for many, many years. You mentioned beards, that's a feel-good thing. You mentioned lights, weapon-mounted lights, that's a safety thing. What are some of the changes that you would like to implement based on your experience in law enforcement?
So this could go on a while. I know we only have 52 minutes. But one of the first things that I think needs to be refocused is the focus of the agency has to get back to the backbone or the foundation, which is patrol and the detective bureau. When I was a young trooper or when I was a Fallsburg cop, when the sheriff's office caught a murder case, they were fully equipped to run with that murder. And I remember as a young cop being like, they have it, everybody else will assist, but they have it. Right now, they don't have it, right? And that's not a shot at the guys there. Mm-hmm. That's they're relatively young and they're shorthanded, right? So we talk about Bearcats and drones and all the new Durangos and cars, and none of that. That's all window dressing if you don't have a solid foundation, right? If your house has a faulty foundation and a roof that leaks, the new kitchen counters don't mean anything, right? So we got to get back to patrol and detective bureau being the focus, right? And everything else will build off of that. Mm-hmm. The SRO program, I think, is fantastic. I love that we have SROs. I personally love having someone armed at my kid's school district. Sure. I know that they can't stop everything. I'm not a fool to that by any means. But I feel better when my kids go to school. At Tri-Valley, we have armed security and we have an SRO. The problem, though, is that when all those SROs go to the schools, now patrol is short, right? So they're putting out one car on overnights. It's a big county to have one car out.
I don't know the answer to that.
I do. That's absurd. That we need more than one car on the overnights. Now, does that mean hiring more people? It does. There's a cost to that.
There's
but
a cost.
If we love SROs, that's great. But first, strong patrol, strong detective bureau, right? We got to get that.
And the SROs are paid for by the school districts.
75%.
75%.
Correct.
So it certainly that is not a drain. I just want to be clear. That's not a drain on the county budget. The school districts are reimbursing 75% for those officers being there. And I agree. Keeping our schools safe is certainly a priority. It needs to be a priority.
When I was chairman, we went a step further, and especially after the Uvalde situation, we got a shield, that could not be punctured. We got breaching tools because in Uvalde they locked themselves in a room and they couldn't get into the room. And then every car has an AR-15 in it. I mean, and it's serious business, and we made a big deal about that. And it wasn't a political thing. It was to let everyone know these guys are ready. You want to, try to breach one of our schools, the SRO is ready for you. Right? And then a lot of them, like you said, have other security there, which is, I think, essential to, this. Because you don't want to unwind an event. You want to prevent the event.
Yes. There's so much more that we could get into, but just real quick, internet crimes against children, right? The ICAC, state of New York. Computer crimes are skyrocketing, right? We need staff there that are fully trained and ready to roll. So when everyone here, I'm sure, has had some bank card get compromised somewhere.
Sure.
Right? So the internet has become just a home of crime, right? And we need specialized people in that. We need people that are specialized in crime scene, people that are specialized in accident reconstruction. Now, I know it's not the state police, right? There's not unlimited resources. But that detective bureau should be filled with highly skilled members. And if they're not there yet, you train them, right? And you invest in them, and you build off them. Now, move over to the jail side of the house. The jail needs a lot of work, right? The building is beautiful. I'm not here to criticize how we got it, whether it was too big, too small. You're going to hear a ton of that, I'm sure.
It is what it is.
It's there.
Concrete, and it's there, and it's not moving.
It is ours, right?
It is ours.
And we still owe $89 million on it. And number two, the sheriff is a leasee of DPW, basically. So Ed tells you all the time, this is my building, and you're leasing it from me, right? And that's just the way it is,
right? So it's not going to change. So it is what it is.
It's not going to change. So how do we make it better, right? How do we get things better in the jail? Morale has to improve, right? People have to feel appreciated. I tell you right now, if you go talk to different people that work in that jail, ask them how they feel. Ask them if they feel appreciated going there.
So Mike and I did the contract negotiations for the jail. I can be honest with you, they don't feel appreciated. That was our toughest negotiation.
That was a tough negotiation, but that's because you had a lawyer there. Why would you want a lawyer at your negotiation?
That's
That's
an
crazy.
inside. That's an inside joke. But yeah, they I still laugh at that.
Yes.
They I mean, they also, nationwide COs, generally only live, 5 years after they're done with their career. Most COs pass away pretty close to the end of their career.
Incredibly tough profession.
Oh.
Salary and benefits have to get better. There's a cost to it. You did the budget.
Oh,
this is not cheap.
So one of the things, they did not have they didn't have health insurance in retirement, and that was one of the things that in the contract that we agreed with them that I negotiated that we gave to them. Imagine working for 25 years, and you don't get health insurance in retirement. I mean,
You can't retire.
You can't retire. I mean, you're kind of stuck in the game, and I found that to be, when they said that to me, I couldn't believe it.
And that's a further drain on morale.
Yeah.
You have people that really are tired and don't want to be there but have to be there. Like the inmates.
Yeah, listen, it's a tough profession. There's there's a lot that can be done there, but one of the things we have to find out or figure out as a county, how can we start utilizing this giant empty space in that jail? Right? It's never been half full in the last year, not half full.
No, and,
right?
and bail reform came after it was
correct.
designed. We understand that, but it was built to be doubled in size. It's built
Correct.
for 500 inmates,
yeah.
and it's only constructed for 260, and they're running just over 100 now. So
It's overbuilt. It's too big, right?
Yeah, it's
but
too big.
it's ours.
It is
it's
what it
here.
is.
It's
We
not
own it.
changing.
We own it, and we're paying on it.
How can we now try to find a way to have that giant space help us pay for better benefits and salary, help lighten the load on taxpayers with that jail? So I happen to know a lot of different sheriffs. I've traveled the state for the last 4 years, talking to everybody that's anybody. There are federal programs that will send you federal inmates for a very, very good amount of money per day, right? 200 plus.
oh yeah,
Other jails are using that as a way to pay their COs.
Orange
better,
County.
right? Benefit their better benefits. Orange County has found a way to do it. When it's brought up here, it's met with a very Sullivan County answer, which is, it can't be done. There's no way to do it. Can't be done.
4 years as chairman, I got that. This is the way we always did it.
This is how it's always been.
Yeah, and I'm like, no.
That is not acceptable.
I agree.
Right, and that's just a way that I've lived my life. Like if it's there, let's figure out a way. And if you have to, you get good attorneys. You pay solid attorneys to figure out what it's going to take, so we can then get these.
I had that guy.
we don't want that.
Yeah, I had that guy.
We don't want that.
Listen, I have now seen the difference between good attorneys and bad attorneys.
Oh, yeah.
And good attorneys make a world of a difference.
Real fast.
So
99% of them give the rest of us a bad name.
if the state is saying you can't because of A, B, and C, right? Let's come up with a plan on how we get there.
Correct.
Right? And then we're going to make it better for everybody. And then we have a group of people that want to take the test, that want to work here. We're not trying to muscle people in just because they almost have the standard, right? That's how you make things better on that side of the house. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're digging a ditch, right, or what job you're doing. If you have a good boss, it's not as bad.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the federal inmates, you got juveniles that we're shipping off to Buffalo.
Correct.
That certainly there needs to be some retrofitting. But as you say, we've got a jail that's overbuilt, not by anybody's fault. That's what the numbers we used to run, and then bail reform wiped that out. The place was already designed.
Is it true there's one interview room in the facility?
I've never been in there,
So,
so I know it.
so as big as the facility is, there is only one room where lawyers can meet with their clients. So, I mean, at times, and I got to say that the staff is great, and they work above and beyond to accommodate you. But for the most part, between the lockdowns and your own court schedule, it sometimes takes several days to get in and see a client because you got to make an appointment. Oh, then it's lockdown. Yesterday, for example, I was in there at 11, got up against lockdown, had to come back at 6 o'clock at night. With as big as that place is, there should be plenty of places for people. In the old jail, you could show up any time and you'd stand in a hallway, but you could meet with them any time.
And not only is that a giant inconvenience to the attorneys, which oftentimes are going out of their way for these clients, how about the client that's stuck in there is like, I want to talk to my attorney.
Yeah.
In 3 days, you'll have a chance because there's
Yeah.
no open room.
Yep.
Right? We got to do better. We got to find a
I
way.
agree. I mean, because some people aren't supposed to be in there. and all they have to do is talk to their attorney, and they're going to get out. And so, people are like, oh, that's not a big deal. Well, okay, I'll put you in there for, 96 hours, and you tell me how it goes. I mean, you won't like it in there either.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how fast this hour goes. And Tim, I hope as you go through this process that you'll come back and speak to us again so we can get into some more details as some of the issues start to focus. But I want to give you the last few minutes to say whatever you want to the people of Sullivan County.
Got a lot to say. I feel like I've said a lot already.
Not to put you on a spot or anything.
Listen, I'm
Not
great.
to worry, it'll all be on Facebook soon.
I'm sure. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you guys today.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming.
I hope it's abundantly clear to everyone that I care about the community. I have a unique skill set for this job. Leadership is something that has always been a strong point for me from when I was a kid playing sports to leading the BCI investigators statewide to now looking to lead the sheriff's office. So we can do better. We can do better as a county, right? This is not just a change in the sheriff's office. This county needs some change at multiple levels. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. We can do a bit better, right? Is it going to be perfect? Are we ever going to be the Westchester County or these thriving
We are not.
But when I traveled the state for the last 4 years, I saw a lot of places are doing really well. And I don't feel like the county right now is doing really well. Fiscally, we're healthy, right? And I know you had a lot to do with that. But that can change like that.
It's changing. Right?
It's changing now.
That can change at the snap of a finger. And I just think that if we get the right people, get a little bit of change, that Sullivan County can get to where it should be, which is thriving and kind of leading the pack, not falling back.
I agree. So, we as a county, have always, my father-in-law who, was like 9th generation here, used to say all the time, if we had, Niagara Falls, we'd dam it up, and, there's a lot of that mentality here, unfortunately. And people, not in my backyard is very, big here, and people like, the same old. And, sometimes you have to step out of that. And, a lot of people haven't been to other places, so they don't understand, well, this is better, that's better. And then a lot of times you see people compare us to counties. I mean, they're like, in Orange County, I'm like, I want you to understand how big Orange County is. If you took the city of Newburgh, the town of Newburgh, and Cornwall, that's our population in this county, right? I mean, you still have a whole, pretty big county. 2 other cities in there, and their budget, it's 3 times our. I mean, it's apples and oranges. But there's a lot that you can do inside of here. There's a lot, and training, is a big issue.
It's a beautiful county.
Yeah, I love this.
One of the nicest in the state.
It really is a beautiful county, and a very wise man once said that we have to stop acting like the ugly girl at the prom. So, Tim, again, on behalf of Eye On Sullivan, I want to thank you. I know how busy the campaign trail is. I don't miss it. I don't envy you, but we wish you the best. And like I said, we hope that you'll come back when some of the issues crystallize, and we can listen to both sides so that we can have an educated electorate out there. And for our audience, again, if you've got a comment, you want to chime in with a comment about the show or about other issues you want to hear about, it's eyeonsullivan@gmail.com. That's EYE on Sullivan@gmail.com. As always, on behalf of the chairman, Robert Doherty, and Tim, we wish you the best of luck going forward. This is Mike McGuire thanking you again, and we will be back next week with another edition of Eye On Sullivan. Stay safe, folk.